Money Radio, discussing the business of making and spending money.
Good afternoon and a happy new year. It's a brand new year and a brand new day, a first Tuesday of January and of the year 2023. It's exciting to be here and alive, to be here for the Money Radio show and on the Agri-Business segment of the show today. My name is Adadu Otayo, Agro-Teller King, here reporting for duty 2023. 2022 has been a remarkable year, and we're thankful to everyone who has followed this channel and also been part of the conversation all through the year. And we hope that this year will also be a rewarding time being on this show, on the Money Radio show. Of course, today is also an exciting day, and also today is also a special day because the budget on our segment of today's one of the few headlines we'd like to talk about today on the show is that President Muhammadu Buhari, the Commander-in-Chief, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, has just signed the budget, 2023 budget, which is also a good thing for everyone in business. I was also happy last week when the supplementary budget was passed by the National Assembly, and I saw 69 billion naira extra for agriculture. Even though I don't know what the money was going to be used by in the agricultural sector, but I was happy that the agri sector of the economy got something extra into the budget. And of course, this year the signing also means a lot to the general overview of business. And of course, the president, in company of some leaders from the National Assembly, were all present at the presidential villa where the budget was fully signed. The Minister of Finance is there. Of course, the Senate President, Dr. Ahmed Lawal, and then Bajabi, and all of them were there. And of course, the next on our list is the IMF warning that average 1/3 of the economy may slide into recession this year, which is something that, of course, developing countries need to be mindful of. And I hope that people from West Africa, Nigeria, and indeed other African countries will also take a clue and also find take some measure to really avert this prediction by IMF. But of course, you know that this year would be a huge year, of course, for Nigeria. So, like I said, we are in the season of elections, and of course, I've said it over and over. For as many who are within the one segment of the agri value chain, it's time to go pick up your PVC and make sure you participate in the project. I don't belong to any political party as a person, but of course, I will always say that it's important that farmers vote for any candidate who will support farmers and the cost of agriculture in Nigeria, because this industry depends. Other industry depend on this industry, and then for us to grow our economy, we need somebody and people in leadership who understand the plight of farmers, who will do the needful for farmers, who will take farming and agriculture seriously. So today, as the first segment of our show, we'll go straight up into our discussion for today, reviewing 2022 and then the way forward for 2023. And of course, with me joining us from all the way from Lagos, it's someone who has been a seasoned participant in the agricultural sector for many years, who has been a major coach as far as agribusiness is concerned in Nigeria. So a co-founder of Corporate Farmers International, Mr. Aki Alabi. Mr. Aki Alabi, it's good to have you today join the Leadership Podcast studio. After so many years, the last time we saw was at the Feed the Future project in Hilton. And the only thing I noticed about you is today you're on Twitter here, tomorrow you are there, and you've been moving around the globe sharing the good news of agriculture.
Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure to join you on this podcast. I'm humbled and I'm honored for counting me worthy to do this with you. Thank you very much for having me. Thank you.
So, I mean, I know that throughout 2022, you've been busy. In fact, this year, I also understand that you have a lot of projects going on with state governments, federal government, carrying out one form of implementation or the other, and then with other key private sector players across Nigeria. What's your review of the 2022 agricultural sector in Nigeria and the way forward?
Okay. Thank you once again for having me. It's an honor to do this with you. So, in review, totally, I would say that 2022 has not been totally pleasant for those that are actually within the ecosystem. You know, things that we never predicted or expected when we're doing our major early review in terms of outlook earlier 2022 happened, and it was a whole lot of crisis within the entire sector for 2022, from the war to inflation, increase in farm inputs, so many things, climate change factors, so many things happened that where we did not properly consider or were not properly in the books where we're having our outlook earlier last year. And I would say that last year, that recorded the highest level of production for farmers because of various factors. Number one, farmers couldn't afford to buy cost of inputs. Input that you buy ordinarily for like 15,000 naira was sold doubled price as 30,000 naira.
Yeah.
Seeds that we buy as low as 10,000 naira became 20,000 naira. It was double the price for farmers. So that led to a lot of farms shut down last year, majorly between Q1 and Q2 of last year. Most farmers had to shut down operations. Most farmers had to lay off their staff. Most farmers couldn't meet up with production, especially the smallholder farmers couldn't meet up with expectations. So they had no choice than to shut down. They had no choice than to sell off their farms. They had no choice than to lay off their staff. So 2022 was a very rigorous and stressful year for farmers who are actually on the field and all of us, that work around the entire ecosystem, because everything starts from the production even before you start plugging in other value chain. Yes, there are other areas that there were other private sector interventions, federal government interventions, but again, they were not enough. These things were not enough because of the fact that we had to battle a lot of internal crises as farmers. We had to battle a lot of internal crises, in terms of getting fund, and especially during the Q4, quick Q4 of last year, when we had to even battle climate change. It was a whole lot that we had to take in as farmers. Look at what happened in Niger in terms of flood. Look at what happened in Jigawa. Look at what happened in to Olam. That holds one of the highest grain production today in the country. Look at what happened to most of these states that are actually high producers of grains. Most of these were flooded out by rain. So it was a whole lot of challenging for farmers 2022, where we expect and we believe, that this year it should be better. Though there are a lot of clauses tied around it, but we are hopeful and we believe that 2023 will be favorable if we continue to persist and also ensure that we have policies that will definitely support our farmers.
So in your role as a major player in the industry, how would you rate the role of the federal, state, local government, and then let me say the private sector people? Even though the local government is not functioning the way it should function, but of course on the books, the local government play a major role in different value chain when it comes to agriculture.
Yes.
So how would you rate their performance generally?
Thank you for asking this question. Most times.
Hello?
And from the local level. Now, let me pick one after the other. Last year, 2022, federal government gave to agriculture, irrespective that the government or the president, paid attention in terms of production. Yes, there were production angles, but basically in terms of the ministry itself now of agriculture, personally, I'm not so much impressed on the way agribusiness was handled last year. I believe that we should be able to achieve much more goals, much expectation supposed to be achieved last year, irrespective that we had to fight various challenging, and also coming from the fact that we were in post-COVID, post-COVID era where they were totally shut down production in every part of the world. Okay, and coming into 2022, you expect that the government, basically federal government, lives of smallholder farmers. These are critical things that I feel that federal government needs to pay attention to. And most times when we reach out to the Ministry of Agriculture in Abuja, we do not get the positive vibes that we are expected to get, even as farmers. Okay, because when these things happen, when you have outcry of farmers that their farmlands are being shut down because they couldn't afford cost of inputs, that inflation is hitting them high, that they couldn't do so many things. We expect that the ministry, the CEO of the Ministry of Agriculture, should come out and give remarkable statements. To come out and give remarkable succor to farmers and say, look, we know these are the challenges at hand. We know this is what you're facing. We are going to do this, and this. We expected more of that as young agripreneurs. We expected to see more of that, from the federal level, so that it's all encompassing across the entire country, across the entire states within the country. That's from the federal level. So I believe that going forward this year, the federal government should play more role in impacting directly farmers. Okay, basically creating policies that will also bring in private sectors. Bring in private sectors to do more.
Yeah, Mr. Aki, that point you raised is such a sensitive one, and I don't want us to actually miss that point. When you talk about meeting directly to farmers, can you expatiate what category for farmers are we talking about? Because
all right, thank you very much.
It's so easy for agencies of government to mix up real farmers and political farmers together. So it's important when we're having a conversation, we emphasize on the type of farmers you are referring to so that we're all on the same page. That's very important.
Your volume over there, but I think I get what you said. Hope you can hear me. Am I audible enough?
Yep, sure.
All right, great. So don't let me mix it up. Now, you see, today we have several types of farmers. The political farmer, the real farmer, and other types of farmers. Now, for me in particular, I'm more particular or concerned about the smallholder farmers. Smallholder farmers that contribute about 60% of food production in the country today. Farmers that contribute at least all of their earnings into food production today in Nigeria. That is what I'm more concerned about. Okay, not political farmers that will just say that they're doing agriculture and we can't show anything tangible about it. And everything agriculture, whatever category you actually spread it or break it down, it all starts from the soil. Even the livestock farmer, whatever feed is going to give his cattle, definitely must be grown via the soil. So I'm more particular about the smallholder farmers who are putting their sweat and energy in cultivation of various agricultural produce, from cocoa, from maize, to sorghum, to cassava, to millet, majorly commodities around the entire crop production value chain. These are the farmers that I'm concerned about. And I believe that once this type of farmers are affected, it affected other ecosystem. Today in Nigeria, we consume billions of tons of maize annually. And this is done by different segments across the entire ecosystems. So if these things are not properly taken care of, proper warehousing system, proper commodity value chain system, it's going to be hard, it's going to be difficult for us to get agribusiness right. And because we have lots of smaller farmers that are chunking, aggregated together, that forms a major stake in our production, it is quite hard, it is quite sensitive for us or for the federal government to pay attention into what I call proper food production. That is where the energy should go into providing food sustainability and ensuring that our smallholder farmers are properly taken care of across the entire country. Today we have data. We have data of smallholder farmers across the entire country, except government is not using our operate data where they need to check it from. Data are collected yearly, annually across the entire value chain to support farmers. If you don't get that data correctly and high, it's going to be hard to know which farmers we are going to support per ecosystem or per sector or per value chain. That is where I'm talking to. That is what I really need federal government to look into. How we can use data, analytical data, to support our farmers around the entire ecosystem.
Fantastic. So in case you're wondering why we're having this conversation, of course, is the Money Radio segment, the Agri-Business segment on the Money Radio, the first edition of it here on the Leadership Podcast, coming to you from the Leadership Podcast studio here in Abuja. And of course, we have Mr. Akilabi, the co-founder of Corporate Farmers International, who is joining us all the way from Lagos, aka Eco City. Of course, and then we're reviewing agricultural sector in Nigeria, and then we're discussing the way forward. We'll go on a quick short break, and then we'll return with another segment of the conversation as we continue in this conversation. Thank you.
For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.
Money Radio, discussing the business of making and spending money.
So welcome back to the Agri-Business segment of the Money Radio, here coming to you from the Leadership Podcast studio, here from the nation's capital. My name is Adad Oteyo, Agrotella King here on radio. And of course, I'm not alone today in having the conversation today. Mr. Akilabi is also joining us from Lagos, Nigeria, who is joining us online, of course, having a conversation, reviewing the entire segment industry 2022 and then the way forward for the 2023 season. So, of course, Mr. Aki, you talked about the role of the impact that the smallholder farmers is making in Nigeria and how best we can strengthen the efforts of this segment of our production. You mentioned something about the proper using data to strengthen the general outputs we're currently having in Nigeria. So how can we use outputs to strengthen our production? How can we use data to strengthen our production outputs this year?
Thank you very much. And that is actually where my area of concern actually goes into. Now, because if you follow my journey, I wrote a book in 2020 called The Rise of Digital Agriculture, using the power of data technology and digitalization to help drive the growth of agribusiness today in Nigeria. And it was very impactful for those who've been able to have access to the book via the virtual read or the physical book. Now, you see, in the age we have today, it was very clear. We must understand that to drive agribusiness effectively, we must use data analytics, data gathering from smallholder farmers across all value chain, irrespective of the ecosystem you play in, because without data, it's going to be hard for all to play an impactful role and develop the sector. For example, if a state is serious in driving agricultural programs around the entire, collective I'm Lagos State government, and I need to impact farmers across several LGAs or LCDAs. I will need data per LGAs or LCDAs on what they are doing per commodity or per value chain to enable me as a state know area I can actually help provide input for them. It could be financial input, it could be seedlings, it could be fertilizer, it could be anything at all. But I will need data that I've gathered together. That data gathering enables government, irrespective of the tier, to provide solutions and to provide formidable ways and process that can impact their farmers locally. Because without data, it's difficult for you to know what your farmers are feeling. It's difficult for you to know what is the number of harvest, not the number of cultivated product or cultivation they'll do in a year. It's going to be difficult for you to know, okay, how many tons of XYZ are they going to harvest expected at the end of harvest season. For example, I'm going to use maize as a commodity. I'm a farmer. Every 3 months, I'm expected to have about, let's say, 500 tons of maize, on my farmland on a 3 month basis, after harvest. And such data, if I'm not able to present such data effectively for state governments or for private sector to help provide in terms of funding or other inputs, it's going to be hard to make accurate decisions, that will help me personally as a farmer to help my growth on my farm or help me have other necessary inputs that I may have to help support my farmland. And these are critical things that we need to start working on now in this generation, because it's evolving. Agribusiness is evolving, year in, year out. The way our fathers were involved in agribusiness is not the way we are doing it now. We're bringing a lot of technology, we're bringing a lot of data analytics, we're bringing a lot of things, that will help improve our life and improve life of farmers. For example, how can ICT help properly drive the growth of agricultural sector? It's simple. Okay, it's simple. We have a lot of nomadic farmers out there in the hinterlands or probably in the sub-Saharan parts of the country. How can they get access to simple technology that will help them understand what they need to do when they are facing simple crises on their farmland? For example, invasion of pests. These are simple ways you can actually help gather data that will help both federal level, state level, even local governments affect, influence, and also positively grow the agribusiness sector. If we don't get it at this point, it's going to be hard for us as a nation to get it hard. And that is why for us, we keep clamoring on the need for technology to drive agriculture from all digital tools available, which are even free. Okay, which I can say is absolutely free and available for everybody. So far, you have your internet available, you have your mobile phones available, and you have young folks that can help you access these things. It's easier for us to advance on agriculture. And also, one thing I always make clear, and now that we're even entering into a new dispensation, a new administration, for the entire country, leadership is very, very important. Leadership is important in terms of growing the sector. We must put people that understand the sector in the sector. We are done with the eras of bringing medical doctor to come and run agribusiness sector. We are done with the era of bringing a pharmacist or probably bringing somebody that does not understand the ecosystem or has not been there to understand the pains, the feelings, okay, and provide solutions of the sector to drive the sector. It's hard. We are done with such errors. So these are things that I feel that we need to do. Leadership is important. Leadership going forward, putting right people in the right sector to drive proper growth for the sector, unless we're going to get it wrong again in another dispensation.
So, that's very interesting because 2023 is very central to a lot of things, to the industry as a whole. And of course, we have just a few minutes to wrap up this conversation. So since you mentioned the issue of leadership playing a vital role in strengthening the sector, what's your expectation? I wouldn't want to ask you who you're voting for or something, but what will you be advise an average farmer who is listening to this conversation to look at for when they are voting people into leadership come February this year as we're planning towards the election?
All right, thank you. I'm going to answer plain and
farmers
fact.
Can make good choices.
Exactly. I'm going to answer plain and fact. I support leaders that put in cognizance what agribusiness will be in the next 4 years, or how the sector is going to be in the next 4 years. All of us as farmers, we can take the manifestos of all the expected presidents, read it through, look at the ones that will fit and support the sector. Look at the ones that and you believe in that will drive the economic growth of the nation. For me personally, as I have taken the mandate, I have taken the the manifesto of the three of them, and I picked my own choice. So I don't know if it's right for me to mention my choice here, but
sure.
the manifesto of all of them. Look it through. Look at the ones that fit into your own choice and your area of competence as farmers. What you need, what our sector should be in the next 4 years. That is it for me. I want to see commodity boards. I want to see new agricultural talents grow in the sector. I want to see agri in Nigeria be as like of those like in Canada, like in UK, like in Israel. That is what I want agriculture to be, using technology, to drive the sector holistically. I'm bringing new innovations that will help us drive the sector as large. That is what I want to see, and that I believe will happen this year.
Wow. Thank you so much, Mr. Akilabi. Of course, if you're wondering what we're talking about,
thank you.
Of course, we'll be reviewing the agricultural sector 2022 and then the way forward for 2023. That has been Mr. Akin Alabi, who is a co-founder of Corporate Farmers International, joining us from Lagos. And of course, Mr. Akin, this is where we come to the end of the show. In your closing remark, what would you say to Nigerians general about the agricultural while we draw the show to a close at the moment?
Well, in closing remarks, I want to say let's believe in our nation. We have only one Nigeria. We don't have anywhere to run to. Even if you've traveled across the entire world.
You're a second-class citizen.
A Nigeria of our dreams. We need to build a Nigeria where our children will be proud of us. A nation where even the next couple of years we can say, yes, this is what I've done to build a nation or a Nigeria of our dream. That is my simple contribution towards the last part of the program.
What a way to start the show this year. My name is Adado. Of course, you heard it from Mr. Akin Alabi. Of course, building the nation of our dream is the reason why we're here on this show, and is the reason why we talk about food and agriculture every Tuesday here on the podcast channel of the Leadership Newspaper. And let's do this again, same time, same channel. And of course, feel free to share this podcast on all our channels. Of course, we're unable to take questions today, and I assure you that from next week, we'll make a robust arrangement where we can take response on your questions and areas you may ask why the show is also live on your screen. Thank you so much, and do have a lovely week ahead. Of course, I know the holiday is still, people are still trying to pick up. Find a way to enjoy yourself while you move on into the year fully. Thank you, and do have a lovely day ahead. Thank you.
Thank you for watching. For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080